Hello, everyone, and I hope you're all having a nice Sunday. The stream came a little bit on a little bit short notice. I apologize for that, but I guess you're familiar with that from everything else in blockchain, right? So today with me I got Einstein as usual, and I also have Lucas. How you doing, Lucas?
I'm good. Just hanging out. Here to have
Yeah,
some fun.
yeah. So I joked a little bit with you already in the thumbnail. Called you the Codfather of Tuna. Just just been just a little play on words. There has been quite a few fish memes already, and I thought one more couldn't hurt. So you're the guy, or at least one of the guys that are behind the tuna token, right?
Um, we're behind the smart contract
The
that
smart contract, yes.
produces tuna.
Yeah,
It's like hard to like. This is one of those weird projects, right? Like we don't feel like founders. There's really no notion in our head of that kind of thing, anyways, right? It's like we worked on a little smart contract. We did a workshop at Rare Evo, and then did the genesis of tuna at Rare Evo, and then people were just interested and kind of kept mining this thing.
yeah. So, but before we dive into tuna, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? And well, that's as much as you want.
Right, yeah. So obviously, my name's Lucas. I'm one of the guys that created Aiken. I do a lot of stuff with TxPipe, and I work on the open source team at the Cardano Foundation, where they've given me the privilege to work on Aiken basically full time.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, that's basically it. I've been in like sort of in Cardano investing and interested in it since like 2018. So it's been interesting to watch the evolution from like the incentivized test net to the Shelley network, um, to like those. I remember like this one of the first like bad things that happened. You had the stake pool operator who had like this like hot wallet for it, right? And like some kind of like local Kubernetes or Docker kind of setup.
Yeah.
And then like they lost their entire pledge, which was a very awful thing. And I'm smiling, but because this is like old news at this point. It's like a crazy thing to happen. And like at the time, we didn't really have a lot going on. So it was like just interesting to see all of the different things. And then I remember like the sort of multi-pool operator versus stake pool operator wars. I mean, there's
Mm.
been kind of like version 2 of the war, version 3 of the war, right? And whatever. So it's not like a drama that's completely ended, but I remember when that kind of first started. So it's been interesting to watch Cardano grow. And then eventually, I started Aiken with Casey after having some conversations with K-Tours on Twitter about like this kind of project. And then people just ended up liking it.
Yeah. So Icon is a great place to start, and I have the website up here. Why don't you just for those that do not already know, what is Aiken? What can you do there? Is it? I mean, the website says a modern smart contract platform for Cardano.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's just marketing nonsense, right? Like,
yeah,
what does modern even mean, right? Like, I don't know.
yeah,
It just sounds good. Right. And it's also a bit of a value judgment, but who cares? So, essentially, though, right, it is a smart contract programming language specifically designed for Cardano.
yeah,
Um, and so the goal is to essentially exist as that and provide a good like developer experience in regards to building smart contracts on Cardano. And then we
yeah.
have a kind of an idea of like what the experience should be like nowadays when it comes to like programming, and that involves a lot of subtle things like having like a good integration with like VS Code and like a language
Mm.
server protocol implementation, and then even like the nature of like the error messages, where you can see an example here, right? Where some people I've seen like to say that maybe this is a bit verbose, but I think experienced programmers tend to forget how much of a hard time newcomers have.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's really the idea with these error messages is like, if you are kind of like new to this, maybe even like Cardano or smart contracts, or maybe even to programming, right? Like, not that maybe, maybe writing smart contracts isn't the best kind of thing for a newbie programmer to be doing, but also why not, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's like people that sort of were finance majors that now want to get into like designing protocols, right? And like they should have something that's accessible too. And maybe you could argue that's Marlowe, but the nature of Marlowe is such that it's also a bit limited in like the amount of stuff you could do. Right. And so, even the L1, like the base programming language for the smart contract, should be really awesome. And so you see error messages like you see there. And then we also have built-in unit tests, which you see in like this third little kind of
Yeah,
box
that's
here, right?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then those you write in the language itself. There's a little keyword for defining them. And then the way Cardano works is that smart contracts have an execution budget. And those are sort of two parameters, right? Mem and CPU. And so as your smart contract is executing, it is consuming this kind of like value that's kept in the virtual machine. And then if you go over that, the program exits, right? And one of the main reasons for that, you could imagine, is that like, how do you stop somebody from writing an infinite loop, right?
Yeah.
In the smart contract, and then basically freezing the entire chain, because now it's stuck validating a transaction, right? Like, and I don't know, maybe there's ways around that, but the point is that sucks, and that's really annoying. And it's a lot easier to just say like, there's some kind of like upper limit of execution, right? So like, even if you write a for loop, it consumes the execution budget and then exits and fails, right? And so the unit tests here are showing you how much mem and CPU your unit tests
the bottom one here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the idea there is that it also should allow you to develop an intuition for how your Aiken code performs. Those aren't like perfect numbers in the sense that like, the unit test, for example, is wrapped in a lambda, and so like that consumes it like artificial budget, like that wouldn't actually be there if you were like running it live, for example, right? Or maybe that your unit test contains some setup code where you're like constructing payloads to then pass into functions. And so like that setup code also consumes execution budget. So in the unit test, we actually turn the execution budget all the way up and let you use basically as much as you want. And then we'll just report how much it was used. And then obviously if you see like an egregiously large number, you're like, whoa, like this one function is going to take up all of the budget that we have in our smart contract. That's not a viable way to implement this, right? Because then we would never be able to construct a proper transaction that could actually, get validated, right?
Exactly.
And so that's been like a fun and powerful tool. And then also just, you're testing your code to see if like the fragments of it, right? Because it's a functional programming language, so it's all just functions and data types all the way down, right? And so if you break your stuff up into functions, you can test them in isolation, get some kind of intuition for their performance individually, and then also have this kind of confidence that like, well, the code is doing what we want it to do, right? You still want end-to-end tests, which is like something that we don't have like a perfect solution for yet. But we are thinking, brainstorming, and perhaps maybe soon we'll start working on like a kind of built-in end-to-end testing solution, which would involve kind of like a high-level DSL for describing what your transaction would look like when using the validator, and then like emulating that transaction. And we don't have all of the details on what that would look like yet, but people use emulators already for their end-to-end testing. So there's no reason we couldn't bake one in and then have like a kind of DSL for defining the shape and perhaps maybe supplying these kinds of like mocked inputs, right?
So for the viewer, DSL is like domain specific language, and like Marlowe can be like a financial translation of these like Lego blocks that you can build. Aiken is like this beautiful, like this is the smart contract language I'm going to learn writing smart contracts on, because as he said, like it's you can see everything. It's written like very expressive, so it's easier to understand the code. You can even see the budget of your smart contract. And if I remember correctly, like the smart contract is actually executed on the nodes, the Cardano nodes, and it's fairly limited the budget. So you actually should learn early to write efficient code, and this really helps you do that and helps you understand more your functions, like what the function would cost. So for me, like what Lucas have done and the TxPipe team has done is like really amazing for Cardano, and you guys are my heroes. So yeah, I really love this.
And don't forget the foundation. We wouldn't be where we are right now without them.
Yeah. Because the first thing that I to start off, I understood about a third of what you talked about now. I'm not a technical guy.
Me neither. Don't worry.
And and this is one of the things that I really like about Aiken is that, so if you see the error message here, you do get the help. Did you mean this? It's right. And that was one of the first things that I was told about Aiken, or that I read about Aiken, was that it's if you compare it with other languages to write on Cardano, you especially Plutus, you have, this is much easier, a lot easier to learn, and you get a lot more help on the way. That's the first thing that I learned about Aiken, and I thought, hey, maybe even I can learn it.
No pun intended, right?
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it.
I can learn it. I love that.
And so like you said, the foundation is a big part of why Aiken is a thing. They are funding it, and they're also helping develop Aiken.
Yeah, and because the whole open source team works on it basically at the Cardano Foundation. So all the core team members are employed by the Cardano Foundation. Yeah. And they also, put marketing effort, so we've worked with the writing team there and the marketing team there. The Rare Evo workshop that we gave was all sort of planned and coordinated thanks to people that work for the foundation, so they do a lot of nice stuff. They help us a lot.
Yeah. And then looking at the roadmap here, I see that
it's a bit outdated.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like it is. Okay, we're gonna skip the roadmap then.
Yeah. Well, the thing is because we basically did all of that stuff except for the ones that are unchecked. But like the nature of like the way the quarters are mapped out, I think is a little bit.
Yeah.
It seems to be reversed for some reason. I'm not sure why, but like the top left should be Q1. And
okay.
So there's like this weird kind of inverted thing, right? But like the unchecked ones are still basically true. So those are upcoming things, and then also improving the LSP integration, because it's like there, but it's not what I would consider good yet. It's kind of pisses me off while I'm even writing Aiken code. I'm like, stupid language server, and then I'm like, right, yeah, I wrote it. Or I there was like an existing language that had one, and I took a lot of that because it was good enough to like basically say like, okay, we have one, and get the VS Code set up like with some kind of flow where we can just kind of keep improving it slowly. But then other stuff came up, and I've taken forever to improve it. So that's kind of what's next focus for me specifically in terms of what I'm doing on the team. Is going to be language server stuff, and then something I totally forgot that I'll ask someone that remembers.
There's also one more. This is something I have no idea about. I know Einstein knows about it because he's already made a video about it. But when I hear talk about Aiken in the recent weeks, there's one phrase that keeps popping up. It's proof of useful work.
Mm-hmm.
I've been joking about that, maybe even pissing off a couple of Bitcoin maxis with it, saying that
Yeah.
what you do is not useful. But can you talk a little bit more about proof of useful work, since that's a topic that's been coming up in regards to Aiken in the last couple of weeks?
Should we maybe? Okay, yeah.
Oh, I mean, because I was about to just say that I don't really know a lot. So
Okay.
like
Yeah.
I'm aware of the paper. I read the sort of like the abstract, like the first page of the paper, and I intended on reading more of it because of all this stuff that's been going on, right, in
Yeah.
regards to tuna. I was like, maybe there's something here. But Casey's read the paper, so
Yeah.
sometimes in terms of the stuff we're working on, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Is that Casey's read it? And then we've had some DMs in regards to people interested in exploring more of that. One with some professor from some university in Europe that I don't remember exactly, but that could be interesting, right? It's sort of more academic, so that could be interesting.
Yeah.
So there is some work in our horizon. It seems like maybe there's some work in that regard coming up, but we don't know yet.
Yeah.
In terms of what it could be used for, I guess maybe homie over here has something to say.
Oh, I know. Einstein has a lot to say about proof of useful work.
Well, well, let's just frame this like a bit. Like currently, what we have, and why we have this video is this really cool experiment, the Tuna, that's doing this like smart contract that you are sending transactions to, and as far as I understand, like it just submits your hashes, and if you have a valid hash, you get back a reward for it, and it's somewhere in between, like layer 1 and a layer 2. It's not really layer 2 either, but it's dependent on Cardano, the blockchain, to have this work validated somehow. And what these papers are all about is like submitting to a layer 1 chain and then doing some work, and then getting some form of resources or a reward back for doing that. And one of the papers is about pipelining, so you can have different types of works going on at the same time, and you can prioritize based on price. Another one is about securing the blockchain by having two blockchains working together, a proof of work, a useful work, and proof of stake blockchain together. And a third paper by IOHK is about like this deep learning and really like focusing on the nitty gritty of how do we implement this without having grinding attacks and like all of these like tiny details you need to make proof of useful work. But for me, the really interesting part here is like we now have a concept where we are submitting work to a smart contract, and that's like a super great platform to experiment on, to really see if we can also make some more like useful. Like, could we, for example, fit like a submission of like a data training set that you put into a decentralized storage? Then you are submitting compute, but also storing that compute for others to benefit from. Like, I don't know. I really don't know like where the future will bring us with this, but I'm just so grateful for you guys for launching this in Rare Evil. Like it's so amazing. Like we can experiment with all of these things now, thanks to bringing out this ID. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
my 2 cents.
Yeah. So I think that's a great place to transition over to Tuna. And you already mentioned this earlier, Lucas, that you launched Tuna, mining the Genesis block. What's the name of it? Lord Tuna, is it?
Yeah, so that's like a master token that like
Yeah.
lives at the UTXO
Yeah.
that holds the data.
Yeah. So so you launched that at Rare Evo, and I think the reception that Tuna has gotten from the Cardano community, especially on the developer side, I've never seen anything like that. Of course, I have not been part of it either before, so I have nothing to compare with. But from my perspective, looking at the Discord, just seeing this the incredible speed of the development, like you on day 0, day 1, you already had a miner ready in the
Yeah.
GitHub. Well, but
Yeah.
it was pretty basic. And then we started talking in Discord, a few people, and we started talking about improvement, and all of a sudden some guy started taking everything because he found out that, hey, I can write this in Rust, and that was way faster.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then someone else started. Then we started building in Rust, and we caught up. Then someone else, I'm not gonna mention names, Einstein, found out that, hey, I can use my I can use my own node to get my ping as low as possible, and
Yeah.
then someone else started taking everything for a little while, and then and now we're at GPU mining already. We are
Yeah.
I think, and we're already talking about mining pools, and yeah, I think are you surprised of the way that Tuna has been received and the development that's been going on there?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes, in the sense that I didn't really think that within 3 weeks people would be already using GPU miners,
Yeah.
or maybe 4 weeks. I don't even know how long it's been anymore, but maybe 3 weeks now, I think, as of yesterday.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
It's like a day last week, like almost no sleep. Like it's been so hectic with this.
Yeah. So so I am surprised that just like the amount of activity within like this short period of time,
Yeah.
like basically almost like right away. And it's like, wow, people like mining just because, it's because it's like, you're using hardware, and then people have fun optimizing things. And now people are
Yeah.
talking about like watts and hash rate, and I don't know how any of that stuff works, right? But I'm like, all right, cool, like people having fun, and it's entirely permissionless, right? We don't own any of it in that sense. It's just a smart contract.
Yeah.
So like we can't stop anybody from doing anything. So I think people like that too, that it's like, oh, this is like this thing that like belongs to, I guess, us, everyone, right?
Yeah.
And so people can have fun with it. And then I guess people were concerned about front running, which nobody's like been able to like prove that it's a thing that's happened to them.
Yeah.
But regardless, it would be more fun to have this kind of guarantee that there is no front running, right? By including some aspect of like who should be getting the reward
Yeah.
in the actual hash calculation itself.
Yeah.
And then sorry, someone called me and it distracted me. And so from there, since we're already going to hard fork it, it's like, what else would be interesting? And Casey, he likes to do things in like this permissionless way, and like he likes to think about interoperability and just neat things that people haven't really done yet. So you see him like say like, oh, like for example, I guess that doesn't matter. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole talking about the projected NFT whirlpool thing that we did for DC Spark. But the point is that you can have DAOs or like mining pools with like the new setup, and it's a pull request that's open right now on GitHub, so anybody can see the progress of that.
Yeah, because that's one thing that I really like about this, and like I already said it, I have no technical background, no technical skills. I just follow along every word Einstein tells me to do when I'm installing a miner, and but seeing what's going on in the Discord, in seeing people talk and evolve, well, seeing the project evolve basically right in front of my eyes, I think that's a really fun way of getting engaged. And I've started being curious now. I want to learn Rust a little bit so I understand. I've never used let's see, I've never used Linux before, and now I'm thinking about installing Linux on my laptop and run a node just for the fun of it. It's probably not going
Yeah,
to do anything, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
think things like this is a really great. I'm just going to call it a gateway drug for.
Yeah, that's for sure what it's kind of ended up being in an interesting
Yeah,
way. Is this kind of like onboarding mechanism in a way to like the nerdy side of things. People are running their own indexers and all these other things, so it's like interesting. And Ktors who maintained and started Kupo and Ognios showed us like the line for like the GitHub activity on
yeah,
both of those projects, and around the time when Tuna dropped, it's just like a straight line upwards, right?
yeah.
That's amazing.
And yeah, you know what I mean. So basically we've been seeing that kind of narrative and commentary around, right? That aligns with exactly what you're saying, right? People saying like, you know, if anything at all, like at worst, this has been an interesting kind of learning experiment and an onboarding mechanism, right?
Yeah,
Into
I
the
think it's it's just a great example for other projects that wants to be, especially if they want to be open source. And like I think we discussed this a little bit before going live. You said that so. Do you think that we should do this or that? And you said you don't care. I mean, it's not like it's not like you have an ownership of the project. It's is that the way it was intended? Did you think that it should have been a community thing,
yeah, man.
or?
What do you think I really want to be the Codfather, bro? Like, come on. Absolutely not. No, you
That's,
know what I mean? Like this was just like a thing that like we randomly thought of and
yeah,
then just like released it, you know what I mean? So this is like,
yeah,
it's not even the cool stuff that we like think about and like work on, you know what I mean? Like this is just
yeah,
like us, not that this isn't cool, like obviously it's fun,
yeah,
right? But like uh this was, you know, it's like, hey, like this isn't even like our coolest stuff, you know what I mean? Like there's more cool stuff that we have.
yeah. I'm looking at the TxPipe website right now, and see there's a lot of things here that I have no idea what is. Demeter, I've been using a little bit since I've been using that to run my miner. But everything else here, except for Aiken, I have no idea what is. I've heard Einstein mention them a couple of times, but other than that, I have no idea what any of this is. And but reading the short introductions of the different things here, think there's a lot of really cool stuff coming that you guys are working on. Especially one that caught my eyes was Boros.
Yeah,
Uh,
Boros needs some love, but Boros is going to be cool.
yeah.
And Dolos is really the hot one right now, which may not be listed here, but it will be
No,
eventually.
it's not
Yeah, but you
listed.
can look it up on GitHub. If you there's like should be like a GitHub icon like anywhere on this page. You can click on any of them. Perhaps that one. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Now click on TxPipe on the top left. Boom.
Let's
Great.
go.
Scroll
TxPipe.
down. Yeah, scroll down a little bit. Oh, it's the first one on the list here.
Dolos.
Yeah, Dolos is the like spirit or god of trickery, and like the
Yeah.
whole thing about Dolos is that it pretends to be a node for data purposes, right? So it's like a read-only data node in a sense, right? It's not a block
Ah.
it is the makings of having a real Rust-based Cardano node, right? Like
Yeah.
that gets it quite a bit there, right? But it doesn't participate in consensus, I don't think.
Yeah.
And it doesn't produce blocks, right? But it does synchronize and then expose like like some RP, like gRPC endpoints that you can query that are a little bit easier to work with directly than say like the
Yeah.
Ouroboros mini protocols, which have like a custom like wire format and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's cool.
definitely look forward to that.
Yeah.
This feels like the ITN days again. Like the 2 weeks with Tuna, like was crazy learning experience, and I've onboarded so many people to Cardano, like asking technical questions and learning it. So again, it's been a community thing. Like it started with the zero distribution, and whoever worked on hash got the Tuna. So you just created this beautiful monster that's teaching a lot of people about very cool Cardano things. So I just think it's amazing, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. And also another thing that I really like about the I'm just keep going back to the Discord because I think that one thing that amazes me there compared to other places I've been in is that hardly anyone's talking about price. It's doesn't really seem that people are that much bothered if the price goes up or down or whichever way it goes. It's the involvement of the evolution of the product that
That's a big
excites
topic
people.
now.
Yeah. So much more than the price action. See, you can see it go up 20% in a day, and people that doesn't even mention it. And that's something that's completely new for me, at least. I've never seen anything like that in any crypto Discord ever. So that I think that's a relief for me to be in a place where I can focus on focus on the product and the tech instead of having people trying to make people hold or make people sell or tweet that make the price move. That's a relief, I think. So
One more topic, if we have time, Lucas, is like I would love to discuss
Yeah.
like the hard fork now, like the next
Yeah.
path, and one of the big discussions is this thing: should it be ASIC resistant? Should
Yeah.
we be able to use these like Bitcoin miners? Because a lot of them would probably like to onboard and try it on Tuna, and it would be a great learning experience. Or should it be GPU friendly only? So all of these millions of GPUs that's been mining Ethereum before could suddenly be on board to Cardano and find interest there. And I really don't
Yeah.
have a good answer there either. So yeah.
I think the second, like, I don't think me and Casey will ever seriously entertain that conversation because one, we don't really care, right? We don't care too much,
Yeah.
and then two, that starts to take it down this avenue where it's more serious than it intended to be.
yeah,
Right?
Right.
Talking about like true fairness and all this. It's like, come on, bro. It's called Tuna. Like, relax, everybody. You know. So my opinion would be to just let people just go crazy with their ASICs because, like, why not? It's more hilarious that way, I think. Right.
True.
So
Yeah.
I think it's funny, but I don't know, right? Like, if people are at this point starting to take it in some sort of serious fashion, I think it merits me and Casey at least taking some kind of like look into like what would that look like? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And so I know I started off saying I don't care, but we could care. There's the possibility for us to give a crap. And as we do this hard fork thing, I'll talk to Casey about it and be like, is this worth it? Does it make sense? And I'll just be honest now, if it's too much of a pain to even just like code for it, forget about it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? We got other stuff to do. So it's just not likely if it's hard or annoying, right? Either one, which are not always, it's not always both at the same time. If something's hard and annoying, then definitely forget about it. Right? And so, but I don't know, right? Like it could be interesting to be ASIC resistant. But in terms of what we have cooking for the hard fork, mostly this whole like on-chain verification, where it's like, okay, like you can't front run this because if you do, the smart contract will fail, right?
That's nice.
Because it's like the rewards aren't going to the miner. You could say it as easy as that, right? Like that's what you check for on mine. A little bit of lightning, and then also the so being able to support mining pools and DAOs.
Yeah.
And then like I think it's gonna be cool where like I think the mining pools can involve like an NFT, and so like you can run any other extra validation logic that you want using
That's
this.
amazing.
So we'll probably write some documentation on it, more than just comments in the code, right? And then just so people understand how to use it, and then we'll have examples of like how to construct the different transactions that you would want, and then of course I imagine we need to set the hard fork for a block height that's like some decent amount of time in the future, so that like miners can prepare, because the transaction for the switch is going to be like it's going to involve the old and the new contract at the same time, right? Because like on hard fork we just check for the presence of the first smart contract, so then that runs and like nobody can just submit like a bull crap like initial datum for like a hard fork, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so there's this kind of like it's a little bit more complicated, but just the one time, and then from there everyone just does what the hell they're doing now basically, with like a different redeemer. The redeemer's new, right? Because before the redeemer was just receiving the nonce, and then now it needs to receive the nonce, the miner like information, so that like we can check that like the person submitting is the person that actually did the work, that kind of stuff, right? So but then other than that, like it's going to be like the same basic kind of like transaction that you're constructing, and so people just move over to the new contract. The new contract starts at that block, right? The block history, so to speak, now becomes split between two different smart contract addresses.
Tuna Classic.
Yeah, Tuna Classic. Yeah, so that's the thing too, right? Now that there's liquidity fucking pools everywhere, that we have to basically ruin that and start new liquidity pools, which other people did. I didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that'll happen again on its own. Then we'll have to submit a new pull request to the token registry and all that, because it's going to be a new policy ID, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a new policy. And then, more importantly, right, there's the matter of redeeming the old tuna for the new tuna, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be able to swap out their old tokens for this new token on the new policy ID. And so before the hard fork, you're going to have the ability to lock up tuna. You'll get this NFT back that like gives you like the right to like claim the tuna after the hard fork, right?
Yeah.
And then so that's how that's gonna work, right? And then you basically, once everything's good and the hard fork's done, you burn your NFT, get the tuna on the new policy ID, and then we do it like that. And then after the hard fork, you can't reclaim anymore. So you have to put in like your amount before. Well, because then we have no way of knowing like, is this just people mining the old tuna and then claiming the so then it just totally ruins the
Yeah.
right. So it just totally ruins everything if
that makes sense.
we let people claim after, right? There's also a special claim for miners, so that like miners can lock their stuff up like as they mine. So if like you want to keep mining tuna up until the switch, you'll be able to lock it up in the same transaction that you mine it in.
Yeah.
So you mine it, immediately lock it up, and then you could just keep going. And then as soon as the switch happens, you can use your miner wallet to like reclaim it, right? And then so I'm thinking it might make sense for me to build like a simple UI for people to like easily lock and unlock their tuna, but at this point everyone's running a miner, so it's like, bro, like you could build the transaction yourself to lock your stuff up. So I don't know, you know what I mean? But I think it might be nice if we were to provide a very simple interface to at least Someone in the chat saying, "I'm here for the dog in the background." Yeah, we don't know his name yet. We don't know his name. I was thinking Boris. Looks like a grumpy old man. Boris is like a mature name, right? Like, yeah, it's like weird. You see like a baby named Boris. You're like, that's not a baby's name, man. You know?
Yeah. That guy was born 50 years old.
I've known young Borises though, right? Like when I was a teenager, I had a friend named Boris. It felt normal, but it is funny to think about a baby named Boris.
I was taking operator friend named Boris, so yeah. All right.
I was wondering. Well, I think I know the answer to it already. I just think the answer is funny, so I'm going to ask you. Do you have any current goals for Tuna?
No.
I
people just mining it, bro. I don't know what you want. You know.
I do think you have one though.
What is that?
To beat the hash rate of Ethereum Classic.
Oh, okay, that's a good point. There is a goal in that regard, right? If we can get more hash rate than Ethereum Classic, that'll be the funniest thing ever. Right? I don't think we could get past Bitcoin's hash rate. That's probably not possible. But Ethereum Classic, now that's
should be possible.
We could beat that. We could beat that. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
I don't think that's impossible. I think it's actually really reasonable. You know, and so that would be a total epic troll move, right? And then also, you know, any Cardano community members want to use the Tuna name and the Tuna project to troll Bitcoin maxis.
Yeah.
Then by all means, go for it, right? Some Bitcoin guys talking crap in your comments or whatever, you know. You just look at them and be like, bro, we got your whole flow in a smart contract, man. It does. Why do I care about your thing? You know what I mean? Like your whole thing, we wrapped it up in a little smart contract and then called it a meme, bro. Like, come on.
I've been joking about it, and but I'm probably gonna do it just for the meme. I mean, when we hard fork, I'm gonna continue mining Tuna just for fun, and I'm gonna rename it Tuna SV.
Yeah, that's something we gotta sort out. Do we like make a new name for do we update the name of the old one and then call the new one Tuna?
Yeah.
Or do we call the new one like Tuna Cash?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The problem is that that's a long name, right? And I like the name of the token also being able to be the ticker, which I think is just cute. You know what I mean? Yeah. 4 letters done. So we'll probably just update the name of the old one. And I imagine that like all of the platforms will just stop showing the old one. You know what I mean? Like Tap Tools will just forget about it, and then
but it's Tuna is not just a meme name though. It's I mean it's short for Fortuna.
Fortuna, right? Yeah. So there's a
more lore based. I'm assuming, knowing my mythology a little bit.
Yeah, it's the goddess of luck or some stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
you got to be lucky to mine,
something
right?
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then you're mining Fortuna, and then you split Fortuna, and then you're mining. So it's like just a play on words.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, perfect.
Yeah, and
Cardano was a gambler, so it fits. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's fun, and I've been I mean in our thumbnails I've been saying that mining Fortuna. I mean that's a meme in itself. Play on words, Fortuna and Tuna. So and I don't know. I'm probably responsible for half of the meme names in the Fortuna dictionary by now. I took the liberty of naming the CUDA miner. So that's been named BarraCUDA by now by me, and I don't know if anyone else is naming it that, but I am. So it's there's a lot of fun memes coming out of Tuna, that's for sure. But yeah, but I know that you have a football match real soon, don't you, Lucas?
Yeah, the real football, the one with your hands.
Yeah. I can see it in the
Europe
background. Probably,
plays soccer.
yeah, I can see it in the background there. It's probably
No
just
comment on that
just a
one.
pregame by
No
now.
comment.
Yeah.
I'm from Brazil, bro. I'm allowed to say that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Then
You know what I mean? As
Uh,
the kings of soccer, they've given me the right to rename the sport. I'm kidding.
I'm gonna end it with a question from the chat here. Dim Song is asking, the smart contract mining protocol, could it be used as an example for others?
It could be perhaps maybe we're hoping that I guess another goal, right, would be that
Yeah,
this inspires people to think of novel initial token distribution
yeah,
mechanisms, right? Instead of basically scamming everybody with like some liquidity blah blah nonsense, right? Like I don't know, maybe there's some variation of useful proof of work to be able to compensate people for like folding proteins, right?
yeah,
mm,
That's a good thing, right? That people share compute power across the world. Maybe not so much anymore because of like AlphaFold. I think AlphaFold maybe made that not as much. I don't really know the situation, right? Like I don't know if people are still loaning through compute power for protein folding or something like that. But
we used to have a Cardano group folding at home, but that was a year, 2 years ago. So I haven't checked recently either. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what's going on, and it could be that AlphaFold just made that all irrelevant. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because AlphaFold looked like some pretty hot stuff. So I don't know. But anyways, things of that nature where it helps for people to be able to share computational resources across the globe for something actually useful, right? Like protein folding, and then maybe having a way to like reward them, and then you never even have to leave the L1 Cardano, right? Like you don't have to create a new chain for that nonsense, right?
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the hell that looks like, right? For me, it's just high level, vague nonsense right now. But it could be that this inspires other people to think of things that we never thought of for
yeah,
like some variation. Because obviously we're just copying Bitcoin, but that's an artificial limitation, right? That we imposed for the sake of, making fun of Ethereum Classic and Bitcoin.
yeah.
Mm.
Right.
So I was I got a question on Messenger for some reason, and the question was, are we as community members, as of right now, are we able to make our own version of Tuna or whatever other vision we might have right now using Aiken? Could we deploy something similar?
Yeah, why not? You
Yeah,
know what I mean? You go, you write the contract, you do whatever you want. You know what I
yeah,
mean? The contract that we have is Apache licensed, so
yeah.
do whatever you want. You know what I mean? And then even if like, bro, I'm not gonna come looking for you. That's for sure.
No,
You know what I mean? So you're good, man. And again, right? It has a permissive license, so anybody
yeah,
can make derivative work from it, right? You can use the Tuna logo however you want, right? Obviously, if you make like a new project and you call it Fortuna and use the same logo, that's just a shitty thing
yeah,
to do because
yeah,
it's misleading people is what you're doing with that, right? And then that's just shitty. So don't do that, right? But like, if you're building your own thing, you can derive whatever you want from the Tuna project,
There's
yeah.
a lot of fish in the sea.
Yeah,
I think his
exactly.
question was more aimed at using Aiken to build his own
Oh yeah, for
smart
sure,
contract
for sure.
token. If it's like Tuna or if we got some completely other properties. But yeah, so if you know how to use Aiken, you can build your own Tuna 2 or
Hmm.
whatever you want to call it, and it does not have to be proof of work. I mean, you can do proof
Right.
of stake or proof of whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe like
So
maybe it's cool for like distributing some DAO tokens or something like
yeah,
that, right? Like you have some way to like verify that like certain members of the DAO performed their duties, and
yeah,
then the smart contract, upon verifying those conditions distributes some compensation in the form of a native asset, right?
Yeah. Are you working on any? Are you working on any other? Well, I'm gonna call it a blockchain, but I know it's not. Are you, or token, or whatever you want to call it, with some proper utilities as of now, or is that still up in the air?
No. Yeah, no. And I don't. I announce things when they're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if we were going to sit here and have a conversation about all the fantasies I have of things that could be built, that's an entirely different conversation, and a lengthy one, because I think of new random stuff all the time, just some of which makes sense to genuinely pursue and others don't, right? In terms of ongoing activities, I can certainly say that there is no intention of dropping a scam token like anytime soon, right? And I say that jokingly because I think a vast majority of the tokens that have been released are some kind of money grab, right? Utility, none of these things have utility, bro. It's nonsense. You know what I mean? And perhaps maybe that's a matter of opinion, but that's my opinion, and tough shit. That's my opinion, right?
Which I think that's refreshing to hear, because that's really true. The Cardano community needs to be more careful about what projects we are backing with this token. We have seen so much value go away from the ecosystem because of it. So I actually love that.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. I think that about wraps it up. I've seen enough NFL to know that the pregame show is almost over. So I'm gonna. Who are you watching today, by the way?
This is the Buccaneers, and look at that, the Vikings. So it's some way. I'm kidding. They have no. Well, it's because they're from Minnesota, and a lot of people from like the Northern Europe went to like the Midwest at some point, I believe in the 1800s, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the show Metalocalypse?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like one of them. They were like in the Midwest, and they're like, "Oh yeah, don't you just love the Midwest? 200 years ago, a bunch of Swedes came over here and then got fat."
Yep.
It was just a funny joke in the show, you know. I don't have opinions about any of the things mentioned one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm a Seahawks fan myself, so go Bucks in this this match then, because I can't have Vikes win too much. That's gonna be bad. That's gonna be bad for Seahawks.
Speaking of Viking stuff, there's a really good anime called Vinland Saga. It is
that's awesome.
So good. It's so good.
My wife loves
really,
it.
really good. Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
She's drawing animation as well. So she's.
Oh really? That's amazing.
Yeah. But that's a topic for another day. Just Lucas, it's so honored that you were here today and sharing your knowledge. We really appreciate it. We should not take more of your time. Enjoy your game with
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I'll come back whenever. You guys are cool.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll go back to fantasizing about what could be another time.
Yeah. You know, if maybe we pick a specific topic of one of these fantasy projects, then we can discuss that in length. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It.
Yeah. I'm down with that. All right, have a nice Sunday, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.